I actually thought about the clothing to wear here today. I come from an established company, and most of the companies with me on the stage are young companies, so I put on a hoodie to feel young, look young. I hope you feel it. Well, first of all, as said, I come from an established forest industry company, close to 100 years old. We make the traditional products out of wood. Our focus is on the wood from the Nordic countries, mainly Finland and Sweden, and the reason being that the parent company is a cooperative, like for you Södra might be familiar, so similar kind of owner structure. We have the double amount of so-called forest owners in our cooperative, roughly 100,000 forest owners, so they own half of the private forest in Finland, so it's a massive amount of forest. And our mission, obviously, as a company, as Metsä Group, is to find use for that wood, increase the value of the forest. So the middle one here, pulp, is interesting. We are one of the biggest producers globally of pulp, and pulp is used to make paper and toilet paper and printing paper and cardboard and so on. Half of what we are producing, we are using internally, and the second half we are selling to the market as market pulp. So we are looking for new ways of using that second half in Finland, so upgrade that fiber to other products in Finland, and textile fiber is of course one of the main areas of interest here. First time it worked. Next one, please. There's nobody there. I will try. No? Thank you. So to find some common ground with you, if you're not from the forest industry and that's not familiar, Lyocello fiber might be then the one which you recognize. So that's one of the man-made cellulosic fibers, the second largest of them, viscose being the largest, including modal. The output, the production of lyocell is today still fairly small, but it's growing. It's the one product within the man-made cellulosic fibers which is growing the fastest. So it will eventually in 5-10 years be significant volumes, hopefully, if all the plans will be realized. Our concept is more or less based on two things: traceability and then sustainability. And when I talk about sustainability, it's both the environmental and social sustainability. The social part was also in Nora, your comments here earlier. So producing something in Finland or Sweden, I think the social standards and the ethics and all that is really the highest you can have in the world. And the man-made cellulosic fibers are produced are in very peculiar places, mainly in China. So I think there is a good story there. The traceability then again comes from the fact that we have a concept where we integrate the production of the textile fiber to pulp production, and then being the cooperative, we have all the link back to the forest. We know where the not each tree comes from, but we know from which area the tree came for making that pulp, which was made to use that textile fiber. So that's very important. And I think the difference between what the state of the art today is the fact that we try to use paper grade pulp as a starting point. So this might be a bit technical, but all the man-made cellulosic fibers today are produced from a purer form of pulp, which means that the yield from one tree is much lower. So we try to use this bulk product, paper grade pulp, which has a higher yield per tree as the starting point, and that of course is then creating some challenges. And also the CO2 emissions we focus on, and we have shown by a life cycle analysis that with our concept, through this integration and the fact that the wood comes from very close by, we have really good values compared to the competitors or the other fibers on the market. So we are not yet commercial. I think that's important to understand. We initiated this research and development roughly 10 years ago. So it takes time. The technology needs to be developed, but also for a big company to really understand that this is an opportunity. So we obviously started from lab scale, and then we have been scaling up, and in 2018 we made a big decision to invest in what I call a demo plant. This is a huge factory for some, but for us it's still a small one. It costs about 35 million euros. It's not a profitable investment. In the first keynote we were talking about building, taking risk, understanding, learning, and that's exactly what we are doing. It's a lot of money, obviously, but I think that's exactly the way for a big company to transform. We have to just have the guts to go into new, start doing it and learning partly by mistakes, not planning the whole future, and then think it's ready. So the demo plant was eventually ready by 2020. It was ready when the COVID pandemic came to Europe and Finland, but then we had to slow down, and it was a bit challenging to get it all fixed. But we have now been operating the demo plant for 2 years, and the main partner in this project is Itochu. I don't know if you know Itochu, but the Metsä Group has had no understanding of the textile market. Itochu has 150 years of experience in the textile market. So they were obvious to look for that kind of a partner for this project, and they have been our main partner since. This fluffy coat, the white part is 100% made out of our fiber, which we call Kuura. So this is something that Itochu has done together with a Japanese brand called the Re-Rax. Here are more examples of what Itochu has been doing. So these are blends, roughly 50% of our fiber, and the rest is wool. Also remember, not only apparel, also technical textiles are possible. So the ones on your left side, they are so-called technical textiles, again blends with roughly 50% our Kuura fiber. And then finally, just to leave you with the image that we are not making yarn or fabrics or garments, we only focus on making the textile fiber, the staple fiber. That would be our product, and that would be the product we are selling to the market, and then other companies would do the rest. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Niklas. And just a follow-up question. You mentioned you're creating Metsä Spring in the context of Metsä Group, which was this company with a long history, as you mentioned, didn't have any experience with textiles. How does that change your way of building Metsä Spring compared to maybe some of your other colleagues? Is there another longevity, another patience, perhaps?
Yeah, I think we are quite similar to what we heard from, or we know from H&M. I have my colleagues who 10,000, they all focus on this. They have these huge factories, and they get the bonuses based on how the factories are running and how we are selling the product. And then I'm doing completely new things and spending money. So obviously we thought that the best idea is to separate this from the actual business. And we are only funded by the parent company. And we decided to establish a company for that. You could have done it also, just as a department, but we decided to have enough length to the main operations by establishing a company. And yes, within Metsä Spring we have then other rules. We actually wear hoodies at work when these colleagues are in suits. So we do differently. In addition to having these huge projects that we are running, we also invest in startup companies. So different ways of finding new business for Metsä Group. And like pointed out here earlier, we have a strategic role as an investor. So we try to really find new things for Metsä Group. So we cannot invest in all the good ideas out there. So we have to say no, thank you, even though the idea might be very interesting from an investor perspective. But for us, it has to have the link to Metsä Group.
Right. One last question, because I'm so curious. We have seen many examples of your colleagues here, companies collaborating with Nordic fashion companies, European fashion companies. You went to Japan. Why?
Yeah, one of these companies, the one actually making pulp, is the minority owner of 25% is Itochu.
Okay.
So that's a long history. Itochu is a large typical trading company, and they are trading many different raw materials, including pulp. So we had a long relationship with them, and I was working at Metsä Fiber at that point. That was before Metsä Spring. So it was the obvious first candidate to ask. And in 2014, I flew to Tokyo to ask if they would like to join the project, and they are still here.
Wonderful. Niklas von Weimann, Metsä Spring, thank you so much.
Thank you.